Producer Joe here from the Working Fans Podcast. And at the Working Fans Podcast, this is just a podcast that three lifelong fans created to have a place to talk comedy and pro wrestling. Now, our comedy podcast releases every Tuesday, while our wrestling podcast releases every Thursday. We release bonus episodes under the moniker Working Fans Presents every now and then. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, any major podcast provider. The important thing is just please like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to us. Now, we have started a new thing. We are now on Amazon and Audible. So those episodes release every Monday. And that's kind of going through the archives and just releasing our old episodes into new areas. So if you want to live through the process with us again, take that journey with us again, you can find us over on Amazon and Audible. Now, if you can't get enough of us in the audio form, check out our YouTube. It's youtube.com/C/Working Fans Wrestling Pod, or just search Working Fans Podcast on YouTube. We have the whole archive is up there. And if you listen to the Working Fans Podcast, you are more than familiar with the 531. That is our signature segment where we take your top 5 lists on a particular subject, vote it down to a top 3, and then debate it down to a top 1. Now, guys, if you want to hear 3 guys talk shit about comedy, wrestling, life, anything, you will enjoy the Working Fans Podcast. Fans, welcome back for another week of the Working Fans Podcast. It's been a tough one this week, and other podcasts have done bigger tributes. But Dave, let's take a second to talk about the late Bobby Eaton. Probably one of the few wrestlers, I think, that not a bad word to be said about him. You're still broken up about it. Let's use that one.
We were moving some stuff around, and what's become obviously one of my calling cards. I have allergies this year. So check out the Kayla Marie interview on the Comedy Cast.
I was going to think, you think COVID's kicking the U.S.'s ass. Allergies is coming down hard in the Smith household.
Oh, man, it's hurting, baby. It's hurting me. But not as bad as Bobby Eaton. I felt that one, man. I was definitely sad to hear about Bobby. It was one of those ones that when I read it, like, I was like, whoa, it just hit me because I just wasn't expecting Bobby to pass away, even though, like, I think it's just because his wife had just passed away too. So I just wasn't thinking about Bobby passing away. And Bobby was one of those, like, constants. Like, he was always great matches. And yeah, you never heard a bad thing about him. And so you just, I don't know, maybe you kind of take guys like that for granted, right? It's just like, you hate to think that he's going to go and you don't think about it. And then here he is, he's gone.
I think that one of the scarier things is he didn't exhibit the hard living of a wrestling life as much, right, but he's still dead at 62. That's young.
Yeah. I heard something that was said the other day on one of the podcasts that sometimes a lot of people who lose, their significant others almost grieve themselves to death. And I know Bobby's been battling health issues anyway as it is, and maybe just the impact and the loss of his wife, kind of put it over the edge. Who's to say? I don't know. I don't know the man. But, yeah, not a bad word. Everybody said I listened to Iron's podcast. It was tremendous. I haven't got a chance to listen to Cornette yet as we say this. I know you told me about it. And
that was a tough one. Anytime you hear Cornette breaking up and out of his usual character, it's different. I saw it live on stage when he joined Jim Ross and Bruce Pritchard. Yeah. That was just after Jan's death, and that was another one of those times where you see the emotion come out of him. Obviously, he's been tied to Bobby Eaton for 30 years, over 30 years. Within the last couple of years, probably within the last 5, I'd say, they had that Don't Tell Bobby show because Bobby's not on social media. They were able to promote this whole event,
Right.
get all these people together just to honor him. And he was surprised that everybody was there for him. But I think that's kind of speaks to his character. And let's move away from the negative right now and talk about the positive. Now, the first list I have is from Dave Fabe, fan of the show. He's got the Fantastics, Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers versus the Midnight Express, Eaton and Condrey. And that was the second WCCW on air Parade of Champions, May 5th, 1985. His second match is Rock and Roll versus the Freebirds, which was Buddy Roberts and Terry Gordy, versus the Dirty White Boys, Len Denton and Tony Anthony, versus the Midnight Express, Eaton and Condrey, in an elimination match, July 4th, 1985. That happened at the Sam Houston Coliseum. Third on his list, Crockett Cup 87 quarterfinal, the Midnights, Lane and Eaton versus the Road Warriors, November 4th, 1987. The Midnights won by DQ, and that's kind of wild considering how big the Road Warriors were at that point. Fourth on his list, Midnights, Lane and Eaton versus the Fantastics, where they won the U.S. Tag title at the Great American Bash 1988. And number 5, Chi-Town Rumble, Cornette and the Midnights, Lane and Eaton defeat Paulie Dangerously, Jack Victory, and Randy Rose. That is quite the list, spanning that really mid-'80s time.
Yeah, Jack Victory probably would have been filling in there. There was the original Midnight Express. So actually, he would have been filling in for Condrey probably, because it was Condrey and Randy Rose who were the original Midnight Express taking on Eaton and Lane. And the original Midnight Express were by Paul Dangerously around that time.
They
Dave
will
Fave,
pop up on another list, too.
I don't know who that Dave Fave is, but he sounds like a jobber. All right, get a better name, kid. All right, I got some lists here. Let's start off with the man they call Jesse from New Hampshire. All right, he's got the Road Warriors versus Midnight Express scaffold match, 1986.
That's probably big for where Cornette blew out his knees.
Yep, Midnight Express versus Iron and Tully, September 10th, 1988. That probably was the title change, actually. Iron talks about when he was leaving to go to WWE. Then we got Iron, the TV title, Super Brawl 1. Then we got the 2 out of 3 falls match he had with Flair at Clash of the Champions. And then the Dangerous Alliance versus Sting Squadron, War Games 92. That one always makes my list as well, Jesse.
Nice. Yeah, I think we're going to see, I've already heard a couple that have popped up already. Now, next up, I got a list from Kevin Irvine, who pulled most of his selections with Cornette's Best of the Midnights DVD. The first one, Midnight Express versus Road Warriors for 1886. Next one, Midnight Express versus Dusty and Magnum TA. That is May 4th, 1986. Midnights versus Rock and Roll Express, 8/16/86. That's a 2 out of 3 falls match. Midnights versus Tully and Arn, 9/10/88. That's when the Midnights were going to be leaving the NWA, and they actually lost the titles to Tully and Arn on that. And it's a good thing that Cornette was able to include that on his collection. And the last one, Midnights and Rock and Roll, 2/1/1986. Now, this DVD, first off, if you can go to CornetteCollectibles.com and get it, it's highly worth it. But you see a lot of Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express. I like the Tully and Arn one because that's the one where they picked up the NWA championships, and it's cool to see them get that from the Midnights.
Right. So I got Zach St. John here. He's got Flair at Clash of Champions. Also, that 2 out of 3 fall match. He's got the Midnight Express versus Steve Armstrong and Tracy Smothers. Great American Bash 1990. Rock and Roll Express, Wrestle War. Where did I leave off there? Wrestle War 90, Rock and Roll Express.
Ooh, I would say just redo the list. I got maybe part of the first one, and then I don't know where that was on the list.
All right, Bobby Eaton. This is from Zach St. John. We got Bobby Eaton versus Ric Flair, Clash of the Champions, 2 out of 3 falls. Versus Steve Armstrong and Tracy Smothers, Great American Bash 1990. They were known as the Southern Boys back then. Then we got the Midnights versus the Rock and Roll Express, Wrestle War 90. Then versus the Fantastics, Clash of the Champions. And then Pillman and Zink at Capital Combat. That's actually a very good one. A lot of people don't forget that Tom Zink and Brian Pillman made a pretty good team for a while, actually won the U.S. tag titles, and they had a pretty good feud with the Midnights as well.
Oh yeah, they're definitely on some of these lists coming up. I'll give you Max Davis next. That's the first one I noticed. He's got Eaton and Arn, Super Brawl 1. We heard it earlier for the TV title. He's got Eaton and Lane versus Pillman and Zink, Capital Combat 90 for those U.S. tag titles. He's got Eaton and Lane versus Condrey and Rose, like we were talking about, Arcade 88. Eaton and Lane versus Steve Armstrong and Tracy Smothers, once again, Great American Bash 90. And Bobby Eaton versus Tom Zink, Starcade 90.
That Southern Boys, Bobby and Stan Lane match, that's also former guest of the show there, JD. I think that was one of his favorite matches as well.
Nice. Yeah, he was a big Tracy Smothers friend and fan.
Yes. Mike Flynn with a list here. Again, we got that Southern Boys versus Midnight Express, Great American Bash 1990. He also has the Midnight Express versus the Fantastics, Clash of Champions 1. Bobby Eaton versus Flair, Clash 15. That's the 2 out of 3 falls match. Bobby Eaton versus the Rock and Roll Express, Mid-South, 1984. And then he's got Bobby Eaton versus Iron Anderson, Super Brawl 91. He added so many to choose from, but tried to give him his due as a singles as well as a tag. Sad day.
And that's one of those things I was thinking, was his tag run going to overshadow his singles run? Because, I mean, honestly, Bobby Eaton was not a great talker. So that's part of why he worked so good in the Midnight Express, besides his teamwork with Stan Lane, Dennis Condrey, and his interactions with Cornette.
Yeah, and also, too, let's not also forget, too, he also had a great tag team with Iron Anderson for a little while as well.
Yes, he did. So. And coming up, I've got a list from Alan King. He's got Eaton versus Arn again, Super Brawl 1. 2, Midnights versus Arn and Tully, that 9/10/88 show. Flair versus Eaton, Clash 15, 2 out of 3 falls. The Fantastics, Fulton and Rogers versus Eaton and Lane for the tag titles. And Eaton and Lane versus Condrey and Rose, Arcade 88. We're starting to see some repeat matches here, and a lot of them seem to be Midnight Express.
I mean,
that pops up a lot.
I mean, that's his best work right there, obviously, is with I mean, some would argue Condrey, right? I'm a Lane guy. I think most people like Condrey, Eaton, and Cornette. I think we all love them all, but I think that's the one people tend to lean towards. I thought Stan Lane really added something with the little martial arts kicks he would do and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're listening to the show, get at us in the comments. Which version of the Midnights did you prefer more? Was it Eaton and Lane, or was it Eaton and Condrey?
I got Randy Osgood here. He's got a list. He's got Bobby Eaton versus Flair, Clash of the Champions. Bobby Eaton versus Anderson, Super Brawl, TV title victory for Bobby. Then he's got Bobby Eaton and Sabu versus Iron Anderson and Terry Funk. ECW When Worlds Collide, May 14th, 1994. He's also got Bobby Eaton versus Terrence Taylor, WCW Halloween Havoc, October 27, 1991. And Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane versus Gibson and Morton, NWA Wrestle War, February 25th, 1990.
Wow, that's a good list. Now, I got to be honest, I didn't come up with a list for this because I couldn't think of specifically 5 Bobby Eaton matches particularly that I liked. I was always a fan of his in the ring. I was watching WCW a lot around that time. So tag teams or singles, it didn't matter to me. When he was in the ring, I was a fan. I couldn't come up with specific matches. And you know me, I don't like to lie to the people. But next up, I've got a list from...
Don't mind me. I'm doing some research right here for the podcast.
We got a little run in there, but my next list is from Dame Ladford, and he's got Eaton and Sabu versus Arn and Terry Funk, ECW, When Worlds Collide, 1994. He's got Too Cold and Bagwell versus Eaton and Benoit, Slamboree 93, going with those deep cuts. He's got Arn and Eaton versus the Steiner Brothers, Super Brawl 2, and that would be a year after Super Brawl 1 where they faced each other. Fourth on the list, Morton and Rich versus Eaton and Lane, Halloween Havoc 1990, and last up, Road Warriors, Lane, Eaton, and Dr. Death versus Fatu, Samu, and the Freebirds. Hayes, Gordy, Garvin, Great American Bash 1989. What you got for me, Dave?
I was going to say, so spoiler, actually, one of those matches, because I had put together my 5-3-1 earlier, and I was trying to remember a match before we went on, and they just mentioned it. That's what I was looking up. That was actually the sound you heard. I was trying to be discreet about. So I'll get to that when I get to my list eventually. But yes, so you picked one of those matches. So that's
all right. Yeah, I'm all out of lists, so hit me with what you got.
All right. Let's see. What do we got left here? We left off with my man Randy Osga, I believe. We got Dan Backley here from Cage My IQ. He's got Bobby Eaton versus Iron, Eaton and Flair, Midnight versus Rock and Roll Express, Express versus Iron and Tully, and Express versus Warriors. Didn't really give us any dates, but we know the matches. It's all good. And then I'll go right in my list. The match that I was trying to look up was from Super Brawl 2. It was Bobby and Iron versus the Steiners, and I'll put that in as my top one there. And then I got Flair at the Clash as well. I also got that Iron TV title reign, and I got War Games because, come on, you know I'm always going to have that Dangerous Alliance Sting Squadron match on there. And finally, I took a page from Zach. I like that Pillman Zinc pairing at Capital Combat. Thought that was a hell of a match.
And I bet if we asked AJ his favorite version of the Midnight Express, he would say it's definitely Condrey and Rose.
He probably would say
something that, about something has me thinking that. Now, I didn't mark these down, but Eaton versus Arn was on a lot of them.
Eaton versus Flair was on a lot of them, which is funny because like his tag team work is so phenomenal. But yeah, we had a lot of those two singles matches go over and over again, and I think we should include them both.
Yeah, and it's weird that a man so known for tag team wrestling gets two singles matches in the top 3. Now, God, I'm looking the rest of these over, and there was such a spread of teams that they faced.
Right, those Fantastics from Clash 1 made it. That Southern Boys match there made it.
Let's give it to the Southern Boys because I think I heard that just a little bit more than the Fantastics.
Yeah, it's funny, we don't have the Rock and Roll Express Road Warriors on here, though, too. But that's how it all bounces. I'm going to say, God, man, it's hard. Like, that tag team match was really good, but I'm going to bounce the tag matches, man. I think we need to put this down to Bobby's 2 singles matches. I think those were so big in his career, and I think they got a lot of votes.
Yeah, and I think, God, it's so tough because you know him as such a member of the Midnight Express, but
Right.
like I'm sure even when he looks back at his own wrestling legacy, or when he did, he would kind of want to stand out in that singles vein. So let's go with the 2 singles matches. And God, which one? See, I'm such an Arn Anderson fan that I gotta go Eaton Arn.
I don't have a problem with that. Eaton Arn, Super Brawl. He also was Bobby's shining moment. It was his big singles title. He got the TV title for a little while there. That match with Flair was so good, though. But
and just to see him going for a world title is amazing.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. Since it's a tribute to Bobby, let's round it up with the fact that let's put his TV title, his big singles title victory as number 1. That's the winner. That's how we're going out. We're going out on a high.
Fans, you know what the music means. Bobby Eaton versus Arn Anderson, Super Brawl 1 for that TV title is the winner this week. And Dave, let's just talk a little wrestling now. We got the 5-3-1 out of the way. I know you got to go back out and hit those stores, but God, this weekend, we'll be talking about it tomorrow. God, when you guys hear this will have been last Saturday.
Right. We're hours away from AEW Rampage.
Yeah, that's up tonight. And are you excited? We got the Impact title being defended.
Yeah,
what
it's so
kind
different.
Of surprises could they have?
It's so different. Who would have thunk that, right? The Impact World Championship is being defended by Kenny Omega against Christian Cage on the debut of AEW Rampage. It's such a random match that you never would have thought would have happened like 6 months ago. Right?
And then 24 hours from then, he's going to be defending the AAA Mega Campeonato in Mexico City at Triple Mania. And God, it's such an exciting time for wrestling. We got Rampage, we got Triple Mania, we got the New Japan Resurgence card where
even the NXT people being released, as much as that sucked for those guys, like there's going to be a huge influx of talent now that's going to be out there in independent wrestling, and WWE's still got plenty of talent on, whether how they book them, that's one thing, but I mean, there's just so much talent out there right now that's going to get spread out. Like it's crazy.
I know former snubber of the show, Alex Zane, is back on the indies, and he is on a GCW show in LA, Highest in the Room. That's the same show that's got Jacob Fatu, Jordan Oliver's on it, Too Cold Scorpio.
Highest in the Room. I thought that was you and Josh Lucas. Anyway, I digress.
Friend of the show, Josh Lucas.
Friend of the show, Josh Lucas.
And then you got the NEW show, which... How excited are you to be going to Poughkeepsie? You're going to see Mike Verna versus Eddie Kingston. Former guest of the show, Mike Verna.
I don't know if I'm ever excited to go to Poughkeepsie, but I am excited to see the show. There's a lot of great talent, a lot of great people from the meet and greet there. Cody Rhodes, Big Show, Eddie Kingston. I mean, so much. Jerry Lawler, is going to be there. So much talent. Darby Allin will be there.
Wife.
Darby Allin will be there. I'm excited to see, just to see like Friday night. Maybe it's going to be like Destination Wrestling night, huh?
Yeah, between tonight and tomorrow night, Friday night with SmackDown and Rampage, that's going to be a block of wrestling on 2 channels, 2 different federations. We're getting lucky with things now. Like, remember the days it was 1 show once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 if you could find them, if you had that particular channel. Now it's like just on YouTube, there's a ton of stuff up. The Championship Wrestling from Georgia is popping up. I
saw that.
Former guest of the show, Logan Creed. We've got Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling, where last week's guest, Jody Morton, has wrestled. And if you haven't checked out their pay-per-views on Fight, go check them out. They've got 1 already out, 1 upcoming. What you got, Dave? Is
this Indie Wrestling with an Edge? What show is this? you got a lot of promotions there. I'm impressed with your knowledge, sir. That might be a spin-off podcast idea. Indie Wrestling with an Edge.
I don't know, man. It just doesn't have that panache that we're looking for. But if you think about it too, we've got Florida Gulf Coast Wrestling that we work with, and we're in talks to be back in that knockout fold. We'll see how that shakes out. Rob says he's got
negotiations. Negotiations are hot and heavy as we speak, baby. Yeah, boys.
Hottest free agents in the game. If you have a business or if you want to advertise with us, feel free. Friend of the show, Vinny Barry's got a book coming out soon. We've got 482 Productions that makes our stickers, our shirts, and coming soon, our business cards. Wait till you get those shits under your windshield wiper on your car. You'll be loving it.
Yeah, I'm about to get Zach St. John on this show at some point too. Friend of the show, about to be on here. Check out the Combat podcast with Chevy. We're fucking hopping. What the fuck?
Yeah, we've got the Combat Cast, the Wrestling Podcast, the Comedy Cast. Guys, 2020.
Doing commentary.
Yeah, commentary. This year has been big, and as we're coming into that fall time, it's only going to get busier. We're coming up on our 2-year anniversary. What are we going to do for that show? We don't know yet.
Fuck you, Delta variant.
But despite the Delta variant, we'll still get an episode out there. And guys, if you want to see a segment, if you want to hear us talk about anything in particular, we're going to start reviewing shows. Get at us. Let us know what you want to see. As always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next